look busted. The outfit was cute though, wasn't it? So we're gonna be doing some getting ready together, because I am going to dinner with one of my oldest friends, and I thought we could get ready together while we do the pretty moment. So y'all gonna see me in my very natural state. We're even using natural lighting. It's like that. So like I said, I'm going to dinner with my friend Amanda, who is one of my best friends, and we have known each other since kindergarten. And we are celebrating some wins and some growth and having some full conversations. We generally have check-ins where we're just kind of sharing about where we are, where we want to be, and how we can support each other through that, or if we just need the other person to listen. I'm going to be using the Tula brightening treatment drops. You guys have seen this before. I don't know if you guys can, is it gonna focus? Yeah. I use this for vitamin C, and I use this, and it has tremendously helped with my skin, the clarity of my skin, the dark spots. So I use it religiously. I also use the Tula facial cleanser, but I've shared that with you guys before. I also have a moisturizer from them that I use. It's a vitamin C moisturizer. I typically use that as well, but usually when I'll be out during the daytime, or if I'm not even wearing makeup at all, because it's a heavier moisturizer, so I don't necessarily like to wear it under my makeup. And your girl's definitely putting on makeup today. Y'all see this? Oh yeah, we put on makeup today. I am looking incredibly tired because I've been working on a lot of things, and I am one of those people who tends to throw myself into my projects fully. Let's see if you guys can see this. I don't know if it's gonna, is it gonna, it may not. I may just tell you what I'm using. So this is Basha, the Subaki Swirl. You guys know this is one of my favorite moisturizers. I have been using it for years. That's not gonna change. So I put that on after my vitamin C treatment and before my primer. So anyways, but like I was saying, I kind of jump into projects, and I go full force into them, and I don't really rest, and I don't really take time for myself. And I'm trying to get to a place where I'm doing better about that, because it's not a trait that I'm necessarily proud of. It's just one that I have, and I think it's a part and a result of being the oldest child, being a type A personality, being a perfectionist, having trauma from feeling inadequate, having trauma from not feeling 1000% beautiful or worthy, or as though I could be loved without having some perfect quality. And so it's a thing that I'm working on in therapy. It's not something that I say because I think it's a quality that I admire necessarily. Now, I think there is good things about it, but there does need to be balance, and I don't know that I have balance. And I'm using the Ole Henriksen Banana Bright Face Primer. Looks like this. And so I'm working on that. And so that's kind of what I wanted to chat with you all about, right? I want to chat about balance. I want to chat about transparency with yourselves. I want to kind of really have this conversation around what it means to not necessarily embrace the traits that you have acquired, okay? Because there's some things about us that God has innately put in us, and that we are to nurture, and that should be celebrated. But there are some things about us that we have acquired because of our environment. We've acquired because of circumstances. We've acquired because of the own voices in our head. There are just things that we have taken on that was never meant to be permanent, right? And then there's some things about us that God had placed within us, but because we have put so much focus on them, they have grown and expanded to the place where they choke out the other good qualities about you. And so now they're no longer good, right? They've become a weed. They're choking out the blooms. I use the Becca Ultimate Coverage 24-Hour Foundation. I really like this one. But as some of you may know, Becca has gone out of business. So, I'm on my last dregs. But I have a couple other bottles because I went ahead and purchased some additional ones. Sorry guys, I'm trying to make sure that I have enough on my face. Yeah. So I went ahead and purchased some additional ones because I am a neutral undertone, and it is very difficult to actually find that in a lot of foundations. very difficult. Most of them are either a warm undertone or a cool undertone, but I am very much so neutral. So not quite olive and not yellow and definitely not red, which is what I thought I was when I was younger. I thought I was, you know how everybody calls you red. I thought I was that. I'm not. I'm absolutely not. My sister has a red undertone. My sister-in-law has a red undertone, but I do not. My mom has a yellow undertone, but I do not. And so it's very interesting. So I do enjoy the Becca Ultimate Coverage Foundation. But let me go back to what we're talking about. We're talking about balance. We're talking about understanding that every trait that you have acquired is not necessarily one that you need to keep. And it's important to have this conversation, especially with the release of the Hey Pretty book, right? And if you have purchased it, you have begun to read my story and kind of my journey into fullness, my journey into fullness of appreciation and being well known and well loved by God, even in my imperfected state, right? But there is a reality that I battle with perfectionism, and not in a way that most people probably understand. I find it very difficult to be in front of people and to be looked at, to be questioned about, you know, who is she, what is she, what does she bring to the table, like all of those things. And so I am hyper consumed. I'm gonna bring it closer a little bit, guys. There we go. I'm hyper consumed with getting things right and getting it right the first time. And it has caused me a lot of anxiety because nobody's perfect. It is absolutely impossible to do it. It is. But it doesn't stop me from trying. It doesn't stop me from being scared when things are falling apart. I use the LA Girl Pro Conceal for highlight and for contouring. So that's what I'm using right now. It's scary for me. And I say that in a way that is not meant to make you laugh or be like, oh my God, what's wrong with her? It's just the truth. Like, I actually get scared when things are falling apart, or when I don't have control over certain things, or it feels like I haven't been able to give my best, or I've had to quit, or I've let someone down. It is incredibly scary for me, to the point where I feel like I am back to being a little girl and being in a wheelchair and not being picked for the games at recess or at PE. I feel like I'm back to being the girl that people see as a burden. It feels like I'm back to being the girl who was decent in the face. And so I would get a little bit of attention from guys, but then when I would stand up or I would walk, I would get these looks like, oh my God, what is wrong with her? What's wrong with her legs? Why is she walking like that? Or the girl who ended up in extremely abrasive and abusive relationships because I thought that's all that I deserved. And all of that plays through my mind when things don't come together, y'all. And that's the scary part. And so it's something that I'm having to work with, because one of the things that I've learned is that yes, you are really good at certain things, and there are things that you are, you know, talented in and God has called you to, but that can't, it won't always be perfect. It won't always be exactly what you envisioned. That's just not how it works. And that's hard to hear. That's hard to hear because I put so much effort into getting it right. And so my question to you during today's chat is, what are you putting so much effort into that you have lost sight of what God actually told you to do? Because there may have been a season that you were really, really focused on something and he was like, yeah, that's good, do that, right? But then what about when he said, okay, I want you to let that go now, we're moving to the next thing? Or he sent you into a season where you were doing it, but it wasn't necessarily having the results that you anticipated. Because let's all be real, when God tells us to do something, we expect immediate fireworks and rounds of applause because, oh, we're doing God's will. And so that means he's absolutely going to bless it on a large scale. right? That's literally what we start to think. But that's not necessarily the case, because God determines the needed impact, right? You just have to be the vessel and the willing servant. That's the truth. Like, you have to be willing to do the things without the applause, without the fireworks, without the recognition, but just of being and doing what he has told you to do, right? Like, that's a whole thing. Uh-oh, I think Evie is up. Let me see. I don't hear Robbie going to get her, y'all. Y'all, my child be calling her daddy first thing when she gets up. That'd be my baby. You know, one of the things that I have had to learn is blending. Ah, bad boy. We get so caught up in the immediacy of things and in really being a champion for God, right? But why does God need a champion? Why does he need that? He created all things. He's in all things. He knows the end from the beginning. He's the only one that can actually heal. He's the only one that can actually create. He's the one that has given us dominion because it is his to give, right? It is his to give. But we still want to be a champion for him. We want to be perfect vessels. And so it causes us this anxiety because we are not necessarily doing it how he wants us to do it. We're focused so much on the perfected, or on the perfect, and the perfect image, and how people perceive us, and all these things. And God's like, that's not what I'm telling you to do. I'm telling you to focus on bringing my people into the knowledge of me. And so to do that best, they need to know that you're human. They need to know that there are going to be mistakes along the way, that they are not required to be perfect. We give off these perfect personas and we miss the mark because there are people that cannot relate to us. They can't relate to that. And so they can't relate to God. They can't relate to God. And that's where the issue comes in, where the balance becomes the issue. When we tip the scales to making our humanity godlike, we miss the mark. We miss the mark. Ooh, y'all, look at that. Ooh, woo. Y'all can't tell me a little concealer don't make you look right. Okay, I use the flower setting powder from Beauty Bakery. Love this stuff. It is bomb, bomb, bomb. And not super drying, which I like. Brighten me up a little bit. Have y'all ever considered that? Have y'all ever thought about that? Has it ever been brought to your attention that sometimes it's hard for people to connect with you because you're untouchable, because you're so perfect, because you can do no wrong, or because you can't allow other people to do any wrong? Have y'all ever heard that? And it's not, I'm not saying that that's your goal. I'm just wondering, if you go through that. We lose sight, God, the minute we focus on perfection over being willing. He just wants the ability to use us. He wants the ability to send us out and know that we're going to use our lives as a testimony to his goodness. That we're going to use our lives to point people back to him. That's what he wants. He doesn't need perfect. He doesn't need us losing sleep over things that were never ours to control in the first place. We're no good if we're falling apart all the time. We're no good if we're overly anxious about things that he's already answered or delivered or created. Because the thing is, if God has called you to something, he's equipped you for it. And he's equipped you for the impact he intends. He's already done that. And so you trying to do extra is just that. Extra. And it's not necessarily within his will. And that's when it gets dangerous, y'all. That's when it gets dangerous. Because when you try to help God do what he's doing and what he needs to do, yeah, you miss it. You miss the mark. I'm using the Too Faced Cocoa Contour to set my, hey baby, hey, hey boo.
Yeah.
Yeah, mommy's doing some recording. You wanna say hi? You say hi? Wait, don't move the camera, okay? All right. Okay. And my favorite blushes come from Becca as well. It's a luminous blush. This color is Camellia. My favorite one, I think, is called Songbird or something like that. It's an orangish coral color. But you see how it's just, I love how luminous it is, because you don't really need like highlighter added to it, which I love. Which I love. Okay, and now we're gonna get this down. But it's a lot, guys. It's a lot. And to constantly be in a state of trying to figure it out, honor him, honor my own boundaries, honor my own weaknesses, honor my own humanity. Like, it's a daily process, and it's one that I've kind of learned to embrace and really step back from this idea that it has to be right or it can't be done at all, because that's just not true. And because my idea of what is right may be completely different than what God said, right? That's the problem. Okay, so Milani Make It Last Original. And that's the thing that I think about. I think about that often. Just because I think a plan is right, just because I think that this is how it should go and this is what he should want and this will give him the most glory. If he didn't say that, then who am I to force that on him and to force it on the people that he's purposed to me? Have y'all thought about that? It's a whole thing. It's a whole thing. And it's one that I'm constantly coming back to. Because I battle with the perfected state, but not necessarily giving myself the worth attached to that. Like, yes, I'm constantly striving for perfection. I'm constantly striving to be the best at everything, but I don't necessarily attach the worth to myself. Like, it's just to the things that I do. Like, at my job, in the services I provide, in my business, like all of these things. Honestly, I undersell myself. I push other people harder than I push me. I toot other people's horns harder than my own. I pay the coins for more people than I ask to be paid for me. And that's weird, right? But how many do it? We live in this state of fighting to be perfect, and yet even as we achieve levels of it to others, we still don't ascribe it to ourselves. Like, we still think that we're too far off, that we still aren't worthy of certain things, that we've still not reached that level yet. And I think that that's the crux of today's conversation. You will consistently and constantly search for perfection, and you will never achieve it. And that means that you will never be completely fulfilled. You can only be fulfilled in God, and trusting his process, and trusting how he says to do things and when he says to do things. Like, that's just the truth of the matter. And until you accept that and embrace that, you will consistently go around and around and around, and it will consistently break your heart. It will consistently break your heart. I almost covered my mole up. Oh, I see my little beauty mark. My favorite thing. That was random, but anyways, okay. We'll miss the mark, but hold that thought. I'm gonna go change. I'll be right back to finish up our conversation. Okay, so I'm back and I'm ready. I'm looking for my earrings to finish our conversation. But really, honestly, what I really wanted you all to think about and to consider during today's chat is just this idea of walking away from the need to be perfect and understanding that he never called us to that anyways. He's never ever done that. You'll never see it anywhere in the word where he commands us to be perfect. He commands us to try. He commands us to be obedient. He commands us to trust him. But he does not command us to be perfect. And he also is not providing a reward for that. So this race against ourselves, against others, against society, it's not going to do anything. It's literally not going to do anything for us. Like, there's nothing there. So why do it? Find the balance, embrace the balance, move on with the balance, and do the work of reminding yourself that you're worth the rest, that you're worth the trust, that you are worthy of expecting that people will treat you well regardless of whether or not you're perfect. Because you bring a lot to the table. You really do. But you have to know that. So, yeah, I'm excited. I hope that you guys enjoyed our chat today. I just see that there's a glare on my glasses. I hope that you enjoyed our chat today. I had so much fun getting ready with you. I'm about to put my lips on, put my deodorant on. I use Lume. And I'm gonna get out of here. I'm gonna go get some really good tacos and have some really good girl time. We need it. We have not been able to catch up in a while, so it's going to be a lot of fun. And if you have not purchased the Hey Pretty book, which, hold on, I actually have it right here. If you have not purchased the Hey Pretty book, please consider getting it. It is one of the things I am the most proud of. And that is being transparent, not just with y'all, but with myself, and seeing the things in the dark for what they were and realizing that they needed to come into the light. So go get the Hey Pretty book at heyprettylife.com. Just click the shop button. The book will be available to you there. And then while you're there at the heyprettylife.com site, get your tickets for the Hey Pretty conference that's coming February 10th through 11th, 2023. Y'all, it's about to go down. We have so much planned for you. You don't want to miss it, and you don't want to miss the early bird prices as they're available right now through July 5th. All right, that's it. I can't wait to see y'all soon. Bye, pretty.